Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to WCS Winter Americas Playoffs. We're moving into our next round, where we got a Terran versus Terran heading our way. My name is Fear Dragon. I am joined by Zombie Grub, who just came in off of that TvZ. How you doing?
I'm feeling pretty good. TvZ was pretty good. Decent matchup, and now we have a TvT, which is my favorite matchup. Although TvZ's kind of been in contention recently.
Really?
PvP's whatever. Yes.
Oh, okay, favorite mirror matchup.
Sorry, yes.
Okay, I was like, your favorite matchup.
That's
Wow.
true. Although, hold on. Actually, I really have liked TvT. We've seen a lot of Terran matchups in general, though, not just TvT, but
Terrans are doing well.
Let's be real, TvT and TvZ. Going into like earlier and earlier fourth bases and really long macro games, so we're getting some passive games, sure, but still a lot of that back and forth TvT action for like 15 minutes. I'm so excited. 5 games potentially. Oh my god.
It's going to be fun, but let's take a look at that bracket. Let's review the games that have already happened. In case you missed out, we already had Cham versus Estrella as the first match of the day. Cham ended up taking that 3-1, advanced on one round, but then MaSa shutting him down, saying, no, you're not making a super deep run in this bracket. That's my time. As he is going to be going up against Time in a TvT. The winner of this will face off versus Neeb. If you're waiting for Neeb or Scarlet, Scarlet's going to be waiting in that grand finals for one lucky finalist to get a chance at that $12,000 first place prize. As the prize pool, $60,000 on the line. A lot of WCS points as well. That's going to actually factor in for seeding for things like Challenger and, of course, WCS Spring and Summer, all that good stuff.
All that good stuff.
All of that good stuff. There's so
Quite
much
correct.
good stuff on that screen right there, including that young man MaSa who just came in off his victory.
Oh, but not Time. I see we have some
He wasn't on
bias
camera.
Here. Oh, was he?
No, he was behind the monitor.
He was behind the graphics.
He was behind the monitor.
All right, you're going to pass for that one.
But I know that Time, he does have a lot of hype around him. I know we were talking about this. Time had a really, really excellent performance at WCS Montreal, making a semifinals finish and actually beating Hero Marine in a TvT. That was one of the big surprises there. How are you feeling about Time?
I think he looks really, really good in TvT. I had the pleasure of casting that match, and it was... The TvT was actually, like Time just seemed to have a really solid grasp on the matchup, where MaSa didn't play badly. Like, there was nothing inherently super wrong with it. It just was, he was being outclassed a little. So I'm a little worried. His interview didn't give me much confidence that he had improved drastically. I think Time is the person who might upset the natural 2 winners, Neeb and Scarlet.
No, I'm definitely with you there. And I know that this is actually something that MaSa was even saying like weeks ago before the round robin, that he thinks Time is a TvT sniper. He is extremely good at TvT. And MaSa, he's never been, at no point in his career has he ever been super confident in TvT. So you always have to take things with a grain of salt, kind of like In Control was saying, okay, but are you really bad at TvT? So I still think he's got an okay shot, but I think most people are going to give a lot of favoritism to Time here.
Yeah. It's crazy how different, by the way, like just, when he was like, I don't think guy's a meta. He might be right. He's much better than I'll ever be. But you watch like him say that, and then I bet if you ask Time, maybe he'd say like, I just really seem to understand the matchup. Like PvP and Zest. Zest seems to be like, I know what that matchup is all the time, and other pros are like, what is it? I don't understand.
I think stylistically also, MaSa is a player that is extremely dependent on understanding the meta and then abusing that against his opponent, right? A lot of his playstyle is mind games. It's getting into his opponent's head. He has talked about and done analysis on a show with Cats about, I played this game versus Scarlet, and she moved up with some Zerglings, and she saw that I was making a Hellion, and it would have popped then, so I cancel the Hellion and build a Widowmine, and then I kill the Lings, and then I cancel the Widowmine and I make a Hellion anyways, because who would do that, right? It's abusing these kind of understandings of what is typical in the meta, so if he doesn't feel like he has a good grasp of the meta, it's a lot harder for him to play those same games.
I think it's a very insightful comment. I think that actually
Thank you. Tell that to Reddit, please.
Oh, this is going to be clipped on Reddit.
No bully.
No bully. But anyways, it's actually, I think that might just be spot on, but it is also the weirdest thing that, like, there's just sometimes every one of us, every player in StarCraft has those matchups where you're like, I watch the pros, I understand builds, I still don't get it. Like, I still don't get why this build beat out mine so badly, but I wasn't actually that poor, but, like, it just... And that usually means that you have a 3-0 that like is close to a point, and then someone just topples them, which is kind of what happened in their last best of 3. So again, I'm worried. Like, I want to hype up this match. I want to be really excited about TvT, but I actually think that the best chance MaSa has is some form of hyper aggression in the early game to give him some nice mid game.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that's one thing I do think that MaSa in TvT is quite good at, is a lot of the early game Reaper Hellion control. And I'm hoping he's not just going to like immediately prove me wrong and lose his units super early on. But I actually think I've seen him win a lot of his early games, aggression, and take a lot of really big advantages in the early stages of the game based off of that early Reaper, Hellion, sometimes Cyclone control.
Yeah. Well, we are spawning in the first game.
Wow.
I'm taking your role, man.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. I'm going to cast this guy in the top left, because I know you want to cast your boy.
Oh.
It is the Red Terran time.
On the verge of breaking 100K in prize money. We can make a deep run. It's definitely going to be on the table. Starting down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, we have the blue Terran player from Toronto. He is MaSa, Team OSC Elite. Or as they call him over in Toronto, the one true Maru.
The one true Maru.
Hashtag the one true Maru.
Forget that guy who's high up there in GSL.
You know, it was always a little bit upsetting because people, of course, I know, I understand why they always said, oh, you know, Maru's the reason why everyone started doing the proxy meta and everything. He was proxying before everyone else. I was like, no, MaSa's proxying before everyone else.
Okay, but when it's your usual thing, do you really start it? You know what I mean? Like,
that is why I would say he started it.
No, but it's his usual thing in like every matchup. Like everyone's like, yeah, he's gonna team.
You know, this goes back to like the lurker link thing, which Rainer busted out earlier on a couple of weeks ago, and everyone was saying, no. But this is my thing. It's like Risky was like, oh no, I invented lurker links. I've been doing this for 5 years. Lamb was like, I busted this out in 2015. It's like, but if it's your usual thing, did you invent it? Is that what you're saying, Zombie Grub? Risky should sit down?
None of them are the usual thing, though. Even Risky doesn't do it all the time, every time, right?
It's also funny because I know that Rainer also mentioned that he had told Scarlet about the style at WESG. So, yeah, it's a big question.
You know, it's one of those things that, like, while we have not a passive opener, we actually both Terrans going for factory expands at the very least. We'll see if anyone adds a starport. They're looking for a starport SCV. But yeah, just like, you know what? I actually kind of lost my train of thought.
That's okay. I'll take over, Zombie Girl.
No, what were we talking about, Fear Dragon?
Oh, we were talking about like inventing styles and all that.
Oh, right. Yeah. Like how you would be like, this is so and so's build, and you just know there's some pro gamer out there like it's like, I'm so wrong. It's no one's build. That was my build first, and I'm like,
it was my build. I'm in Platinum League, and I did it on their Smurf account.
Because I feel like that used to be a thing. More so, like in the early years of StarCraft. This is that person's thing.
I actually there was one specific comment that I always specifically remember is when MC in the GSL came up, and he was throwing out all the crazy force field usage and all that stuff. And I just remember reading one comment on Team Liquid from a guy that was like, no, I invented the mass sentry, like 6th century style with a push of stalkers. And then people were like, oh, what league are you in? I was like, Gold League, but I invented it.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
We do have the expansions coming down, though, behind all this. And both these players did play defensive with their units.
Right, yeah. No one wanted to risk that silly snowball because you ran up a ramp into the other guy's Reapers. They did do a great job of checking around for that starport. It wasn't in proxy, but to note, MaSa went for the faster one. He actually went up to the complete 1-on-1 for a Raven, which is going to be scouted here.
Very nice scout here with the Reapers.
Fake cloak, I do believe.
Yeah, just starts it up as soon as the Reapers pop in, so there's a good chance it might get canceled as soon as he kills these Reapers. Reaper's still getting a lot of damage on, though. 3 workers killed and also getting a full scout there.
Well, he's not. He canceled Cloak, but he is getting a Banshee.
Well, maybe it's the extra little bit of a sell there. I like the Widowmine placement there as well in case Time does decide to push forward with some units. It's going to maybe catch him off guard at the high ground.
This Banshee kind of like really confuses me. I feel like it's one of those...
Did you just cancel it and get a Raven or no? No.
He's still getting the Banshee, yeah. It feels like one of those, like you were saying, with the Widowmine and the Hellion and the Widowmine and the Hellion with Scarlet. Feels like, well, he knows... I know, he knows.
This is actually the way that MaSa thinks. This isn't an over-exaggeration. This is legitimately, if you ask MaSa to break down his games, he will actually say the well, they know that I know that they know
Yeah.
I'm doing something, so I'm not going to do that.
So he probably expects time to expect him to cancel that cloak and not get a Banshee. And it's just like, okay, all right, buddy. So one Banshee. So the thing is that this could be very effective since a lot of TvTs do have that like 2 Raven, the 2 Vikings fly across the map push. And if you do come up with a Banshee, they really don't have anything back there. They don't build missile turrets. They might not even have an engineering bay at all.
Yeah.
Or it can help you with the defense if it has cloak. But besides that, like it could do a lot of damage. But I don't know if Time's actually going to be looking for a push. So he's probably just going to like be like, oh, a Banshee? Why?
Yeah, Time also left a Raven and a Cyclone back inside of his main base, so it seems like he is still expecting it. We'll see whether or not, or when MaSa actually decides to push in. Right now, he's just kind of poking forward, checking around, making sure there's no third base or anything else funny going on. But both these players are going to start going up to things like Stim. MaSa adding on the Vikings, same as Time, and that air superiority also going to be very important. But because MaSa went for the Banshee, it means he's only going to have 1 Raven versus the 2 of Time. And when it comes to interference matrices and siege tanks, that makes a big difference.
I really like MaSa's Widowmine positioning. You brought it up on the ramp, but now it's like an anti-Raven Viking, because those are usually the ones that go a little farther forward if you are to push. But again, Time not looking for a push, going into a 3rd CC. It's MaSa who's actually doing the push, and then we might see a 3rd CC on location since he figures he has the map control. This Banshee, again, like it could be like this tiny little surprise factor that does end up sniping a tank or getting the extra 2 shots, so the other tanks 2-shot it. In this case, auto turrets take it out too.
Okay, so auto turret's gonna be able to take out one of the tanks. Interference matrix not gonna be available anymore for MaSa. He only had 1 Raven as well, so he's got to make something happen with this. Time still has both of his Ravens alive, but those Vikings for MaSa looking for an opportunity to snipe off anything that moves a little too far forward.
Yeah, the interference matrix come down on the Vikings, but that doesn't actually take the fight. Oh, Marines actually going a little too far forward there. So MaSa's missing a lot of fodder, but he is still encroaching with his air superiority. His tanks are taking out a decent number of supply depots.
Yeah, he's also building his 3rd command center behind all of this, but his siege tank looks like it's going to get taken out by the auto turret, and well, the Banshee's still doing some good damage here. Maybe we can snipe off 1 more siege tank. Looks like he's going to be able to continue to whittle away at things, but it does eventually get interference matrix. And Time, he still has a much faster stim behind this. His 3rd base is turning into orbital while MaSa is still just building.
Yeah, but he's lost so many SCVs that are mining on that edge, and he has taken quite a while to get to the Marine count to bust this. He's even pulling the SCVs to bust this.
Oh my god, SCV's actually clumping up on that auto turret, taking some friendly, or a big fire there. The Vikings end up landing, healing up the rest of those SCVs. MaSa takes the 1st game.
Yes, he does. That was I don't want to say it's a typical push because of that Banshee.
Yeah.
It was so weird because you would think, I think typically a 2nd Raven is usually so much better.
Yeah.
Especially against someone else who has double Raven. But the Banshee had that range so that the Marines had to move forward to take out the Banshee, and then they got hit by the tank. And then he was also able to find that position that not only killed the supply depots, but also kept taking away 2 SCVs every time they went to that far mineral patch.
Yeah. I mean, being able to be in siege range of the mineral line was really big. The auto turrets being able to pick off 1 of the tanks, also the most forward tank, was also a pretty big deal because that's what allowed him to kind of move up slowly but surely. I have to say, I think like the air control there from MaSa was just really, really solid. Even though his Vikings were getting interference matrix and stuff, it seemed like he was still able to maintain that air superiority there.
Yeah, a lot of times Raven usage. So initially it was anti-Raven usage. He made his own auto turret to combat the auto turrets of his opponent. But then it became just time buying. Not to do any puns. It became time buying. You did something. You threw in an interference matrix, but that didn't actually do anything. You didn't take the extra tank shot on your opponent's tanks because they're an interference matrix. You just said, please leave me alone for a second, please. And that's what happened, but nothing died.
Yeah.
So the snowball actually was able to accrue, even though MaSa was getting on a dangerously low Marine count. Usually when you lose enough Marines, there's only tanks and Vikings. A concave of like 10 Marines and 10 SCVs will do something. But no, he still just had so many, he had so much positioning, so the choke was really effective. His Raven was still in play. And then he brought Hellions along, which was a very weird addition because he definitely wasn't going into mech. That stim behind it, but while they weren't like the reason he won or anything, I do think they were a smart move. They get across the map really fast, and they help against what you're pulling against that, Marines and SCVs.
Yeah, the SCVs got roasted and toasted pretty dang quickly there, and we end up seeing MaSa be able to take that first game off the back of the aggression. I know this is what we were both kind of talking about, maybe go in for some more of those early game pressures and stuff as a way to try and combat Time, prevent him from getting into the later stages. I do want to note, Time had a stim that I think was nearly finished. I actually missed if it just finished.
Yeah, it was so close.
I was surprised that he went for the big SCV pull right then. Maybe he felt like he was going to be bleeding off too many Marines or SCVs to make it work later, but it did seem as though it was going to be maybe like another 10 seconds and he would have had stim, which maybe would have allowed him an easier break.
So the weird thing about stim is that its only benefit, I feel, actually in those types of positions is that it gets you a concave easier sometimes because you're faster.
Yeah.
But actually, stimming can hurt you in those low unit engagements, the high tank count engagements. You just make it easy for the splash to kill all those Marines.
Yeah.
It's usually combat shields that really makes the difference in Marine tank versus Marine tank. So I'm not even sure that would have helped. And I think what was going through Time's mind was that, unlike some other scenarios, because MaSa's push was not that unorthodox, besides that Banshee, was that he was bleeding off units. He was losing SCVs. He hadn't stopped the push from getting to an important point. And as such, he needed to do something. And he couldn't wait for combat shields. He couldn't wait for 20, 30 more Marines. And he was right. He was bleeding off heavily. Yeah.
So if you want to see some sort of adjustment here from Time, would it be, I guess, just changing up how you use your Raven energy? Is it getting a more forward siege position? Like, what would you want to see different from Time to make that kind of defense work?
Yeah, I'd love to see that, like, in replay and really slow it down and see exactly what happened.
I'm putting you on the spot here.
I didn't literally catch everything that was going on. But, yeah, I think what happens when the Marines got, torn apart, they went into that tank fire and they all died, is that you use it for interference matrix and then you can clean it up a little bit faster. But he went for interference matrix on the Vikings, and then I think his Raven, like one of them even died at one point because the Viking count was that extreme for MaSa. I also would say baseline, I would actually like Time to be a little more aggressive. That is to say, him on the map a little bit more. For MaSa to get into that specific position it was just completely surprised Time. He had no Marine over there seeing, oh, I need to reposition to stop him from reaching my mineral line, which he might have been able to do if he had some form of control or any type of scouting, really.
Yeah, I mean, the most forward thing that he had was like that Widow Mine at one of the ramps, and MaSa didn't even come up from that ramp, so he didn't see it until later. The Widow Mine hit his tank.
So that's actually another point, is that map that we just saw, the most popular point to attack with the tanks is on the top of the production amongst the Reaper hop-up spot. So that's always where Terrans go to, and I'm guessing MaSa assumed that's what was going to happen. So,
he thinks I'll move in from there, so I'll move in from the other side.
Yeah, exactly. So
sneaky.
A little bit of sneaky. I mean, everything that MaSa did there was just a little bit off. Going to the left side instead of the right, getting a Banshee instead of a second Raven. It was cool.
MaSa is a masterclass act of doing something just a little bit weird, but not weird enough to throw his opponent too far off his trail. But here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We're moving into game number 2. We're going to be starting down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, top of the red Terran. China, he is Time. Team Newbie.
I love Team Newbie's graphics.
They do have pretty cool graphics.
Yeah. And in the top left, as the blue Terran from Canada, it is MaSa.
I'm sure Time would love to make a pretty deep run over here and kind of show that Montreal wasn't just a fluke or anything. He's still got a lot of firepower here. I'm sure he'd love to get a match against his teammate now, Scarlet, in the finals.
Yeah.
Both from Team Newbie.
Although apparently Scarlet always wins against him. So
it's so funny because I think Scarlet is one of those really, really interesting players where she'll drop maps to people you're like,
oh yeah,
really?
Yeah.
You drop maps to them? But then there's some people who are so good that Scarlet just reads perfectly. I think she's such a cerebral player in a lot of ways. She like really thinks through and knows how to hard counter specific players and then really struggles versus others. Like MaSa is actually one that comes to mind as a player she struggles against, because MaSa, you can't out cerebral MaSa. MaSa isn't even in his own head. He's in everyone else's head.
Yeah, sure. Let me put it that way. But yeah, I agree. Overall, I think that's we've all talked about this, that if it was the reverse, if Scarlet was in Neeb's place, then we could definitely see Scarlet being or someone advancing over Scarlet, bested. But Neeb seems to be more of the roadblock to that finals than Scarlet could have been. But again, we'll see what happens. MaSa actually finds himself up 1-0 in a matchup against a player that he did not expect to be up in.
Well, there is the secret of MaSa, as many people know. If you're a fan of MaSa, you'll know this. The less confident he is about his chances, the better he plays. And he's actually I've done like long interviews with him about this. And hold that thought. We did have the Reaper making his way up the ramp. He does get the Reaper grenade off, picks off the single Marine there, but the Reaper here for time is going to be able to hold strong. And the bunker, a clear sign that he is really, really trying to play this defensive, right?
Yeah, so I wonder, and I don't want to read into it so much since we're a game and a 10th in, but it might be that Time feels very confident against MaSa in that mid to late game, and as such sees no reason to risk the early game. So the way he was playing last game, defensively set up, thinking about that one abusive position, this game getting a bunker even on an already kind of safe map. Cyberforce has that ramp to your natural. It might be what's going on here, which means that if Time gets blindsided again by XYZ, MaSa's doing exactly what he should, exactly what we said he should. So more power to him. He once again goes up to the 1-1-1, but doesn't go for a fast Raven. He does, in fact, go for the Banshee, which, guys, in general, Banshee just isn't really considered that great anymore. Like, it's still usable, of course.
You still see it every so often, but yeah.
But the power of Ravens is just, you can't deny it in any matchup, basically. It's so good. So it's a risk. These can be shut down, or they can suddenly get 20 SCVs, and you're like, haha, I win, because you never expected it.
And that's actually one thing I think MaSa is also maybe counting on, is just, he is good at planning series. His mind games aren't just per game, they're usually across an entire series, so he says, okay, you saw me do this last game, so the last thing you might be expecting is that, because you saw that I went for the Raven before the Banshee, so you're going to be thinking about this time for the Banshee, but I'm going to actually come in with this much earlier time, and this time I'm going to have Cloak, so he's trying to catch Time off guard. I mean, it's not anything super unusual, but you can already see over here that the Banshee getting some good damage done.
It's so awkward, though, because this specific timing, the usual Banshee timing, is what the Raven Cyclone opener kind of hard counters. You grab onto it once, and it's almost assuredly dead.
I mean, he's already killed like 3 Marines. He's killed a couple of SCVs over here. He's still killing more, doing damage to the Reaper, nearly killing off a supply table. There's the Cyclone finally popping in, but that was already a successful opening. He didn't even use Cloak.
Yeah, no, that was much better than anticipated because the Banshee survived especially, so it can come back in later. He did go into the Raven after that, despite getting Cloak. I mean, the rule is usually if you get Cloak, you get 2 Banshees, but MaSa's not playing according to that rule. So the Banshee is once again...
Rules are meant to be broken.
Yeah, that's very true. Stop signs are meant to be, broken. But anyways, it's once again going to be added into that potential push. This time with Cloak. So the Raven's out of position for 1 second. Your tank dies.
Or yeah, if MaSa is able to get a nice little lead on Vikings or something, push the Raven back, or the Raven, isn't really safe anymore. And, oh my god, killing off even more of these Marines.
So MaSa was never scouted, right? Time just scanned an absolutely useless piece of information because you don't expect the production to be so far
on the far right. Yeah,
he doesn't see if there's a Viking transition. The starport is swapped over, and that's probably exactly what he was looking for.
Okay, well, Time, he's bled out a lot of Marines over here, but he's starting to move down across the map, and it looks like MaSa is catching a glimpse of some of the Marines, the Hellion, the Cyclone, poach forward, and might reveal some of the intentions here of Time and give MaSa an opportunity to greet this army further out in the map.
Now, we're just, geeking out so much about MaSa's Banshee decisions that we kind of missed that Time has that second factory already done in producing double tanks. So we do have a slow game once again, but not going into Marine tank. It is, in fact, into that mech. So this is something that MaSa might not read into for a little while, but since he is once again doing a push, you are both pressuring and scouting. You will eventually figure out that's their plan, be able to adjust accordingly.
Yep. All right, Hellions continuing to be added on over here for Time, and we're going to see the nice siege up over here, anticipating the angle that MaSa's trying to move in from. This means that MaSa's not going to be able to get in on top of that mineral line like he did before, but the SCVs starting to go down to the Banshee. It looks like the Ravens and the Vikings should be able to clean that up, even with a Cloak. Gets chased back, and MaSa actually finding one of the Ravens there and forcing out a couple of auto turrets. That's a very good pickoff.
But he lost his own Raven. there.
Oh, yeah.
That was a good move by Time to salvage the situation. Now he's going to try and come in
Oh,
here.
awkward rally, and the Siege Tank's not really getting a whole lot done, and now we can see MaSa's very trapped. He does pick off one of the Ravens there once again, and the Vikings are just going to go in and maybe land to try and get some SCV damage done.
Not a bad decision, because the tanks come forward. They get melted by the Vikings.
Well, he has a Viking count lead, so he can actually take that fight as well.
Yeah.
Not bad.
He's forcing, and the Banshee came back in? Is that what's cool in the SCVs? It definitely
Oh my god,
is.
it survived! The Vikings and the Raven didn't manage to chase it down in time.
Oh my gosh. Wait, are both Ravens dead?
Both of the Ravens are dead.
Yeah, there's no missile turret. There
He
is
does have scans. He has scans.
but he doesn't have anti-air. He's on Marines.
Oh my god. MaSa making the most of the single Banshee. There's a scan, but there's nothing. Okay, there are the Vikings to try and kill it. The Vikings for MaSa a little too far behind. The Vikings land to try and stay alive. MaSa rallying in more of these Vikings, which are going to go uncontested, but MaSa needs to contest the ground.
Yeah, so Time, this is like it almost feels like I'm done with this, let's do this, but it also is a smart move. MaSa does not have a lot in the ground quite yet, and while yes, MaSa could just go into Liberators and stall this out, they're not here yet, so damage will be done to MaSa before he's ready.
Okay, MaSa's trying to use that tank to get some splash damage on his opponent's Siege Tanks, but this army for Time is not stopping for anything. He gets into the natural. MaSa's already pulled all of his workers away from there.
Yeah.
And we're going to see, are these Vikings just going to try and land on top of the tanks? This is such a dangerous move anyways.
Yeah, MaSa was... He knows he could have been in such a great position. He doesn't want to tap out, but his production is about to be camped, and he's only on one mining base. But the start was going to be good for him if he had just gotten these Liberators out on a choke 30 seconds ago.
I mean, he did manage to keep 57 workers alive so far. He loses 7 right there, but he is, like you said, going to be able to use the Liberators and the Vikings to actually push this army back a little bit and maybe at least reestablish as natural, if not the third soon.
It's really nice that he identified that. He didn't go like, oh, maybe I can hold Time with SCVs. No, he just bought time by not giving him anything to kill. So that ended up being the best call. Now losing some SCVs to Blue Flame Hellions, but Time still, I would say, got a decent amount from that, right? He kept MaSa on his toes, he denied bases. I don't know where that tank came from. And also might have a better idea as to where MaSa is planning to go with this game.
Well, Liberator gets picked off there by the Marines of Time, which even if they're all stimmed up to death, it's not going to matter too much versus Liberators because Liberators will one-shot them either way. Time trying to make his way further down, but the one Liberator is causing some problems, and those Vikings gonna zone out the Liberator of Time, and Time is still trying to produce those Liberators, or sorry, these Vikings. It's gonna be enough.
Marines trying to kill this one Liberator with the help of the Cyclone. It is going to be enough. Time has taken such a substantial supply lead. There is such a production gap for MaSa. He also wanted to go into like more air than maybe he was really capable of. Time is taking advantage, and now is gonna be able to deny the third base once again.
Yeah, Viking count lead still going to MaSa though, so he's going to be able to win that fight and push this army back once again, but 8 more workers going down. Time has a 4th base nearly finished up, and MaSa is barely holding on to his 3rd.
Yeah, again, like 2 Liberators stop this push, scare Time, and he has 3cc mining, all his production done. This could be a very different game, one that Time's still defensive and MaSa starts really gaining momentum. But it was entirely flipped. Time actually using his army to move across the map, hit MaSa at such a weak point. He really is just depending on keeping that air control, but that's going to change soon. Yeah. The economy, the reduction of time is really ramping up.
We already saw that the Liberator getting sniped off there because MaSa only has 2 Vikings left alive, and he did manage to snipe off one of Time's Vikings, but it is not looking good because MaSa keeps having to split up his starport production between Vikings and Liberators, whereas Time is just making pure Vikings.
He's gonna try and break this, but it's got some depth. There are tanks everywhere on high grounds and chokes. MaSa, despite what looked to be a great start, that Banshee doing so much more than it really should have, ultimately lost out to that macro. The production wasn't ready for MaSa. He started stim, but that's about it, and then his 4 barracks were quite late. This is Time's game for sure.
Yeah, Hellbats might be cleaned up over here, but the Bioforce is trading out so poorly here for MaSa at this point that it doesn't matter. MaSa gonna be halved in supply compared to Time, and GG, Time takes it.
Yeah. I was certainly a little scary. I mean, if MaSa was able to go up 2-0 based around that early opener, that would have been, I mean, he would have been on Cloud 9, right? Like, it would have been a fantastic start, but now getting maybe slapped back into reality. His tricks, I suppose, and they were tricky, they were tricks, aren't going to win him the game entirely. You still got to have that macro behind it. And I feel like, again, I wish I had the replay and just went really back into it, but building 4 barracks at a time, usually not a great sign. Usually it's like 1, 3, 5. Then he also threw in a second starport while his 3rd CC finished. That's a lot of production for what is not quite 3 CC.
Yeah.
It felt like there was so much to be gained, but then the macro was where it really was lost out.
Absolutely. And also just having his army basically cornered over there as he was trying to go for that push in and losing a bunch of that stuff. Yeah, the Banshee did do a lot of damage alongside the Liberators, but he lost so much of his ground force that when the big push came in from time, it's like, okay, well, I got total air superiority and nothing to actually stop the force. So that's what just allowed the siege tanks and the Hellbats and everything just get right up to the 3rd. Because if you can hold that off a little bit, then maybe you're at least still mining or something. You can get out the next round of production. That's when you have time to get the Liberators and everything. But also didn't have any of that because he lost all those units.
Yes, it was that classic scenario of you dealt a lot of damage to the economy, but you didn't kill any of the units.
Yeah.
So are you really in a good position? Your adepts killed all the drones, but then you didn't touch the roach count, right? So it worked out really well for time. Had he been more defensive, more apprehensive, had he just been like, no, I need to play the long game because I'm the mech player, that's the time that MaSa would have needed, and then he would have been able to run around the map, what we know MaSa for, the multitasking, the harassment, and he might also have continued pushing that starport production. But it's arguably the wrong call. That second starport was expensive, and then he also just never even got the chance to start combat shields and Marauder slow. He's missing that in the entire time.
Oh, yeah. That definitely hurt. But we're going to get ready to move into game number 3 now. Tied up series of 1-1, as it seems like a lot of a series today have just gotten tied up 1-1, but then one player just kind of overwhelms the other. Huh?
Everyone who's lost has won the first game. Is that how that went down?
Ooh, okay, so Estrella... Actually, no, Estrella went down the first game. Yeah.
All right, no curse.
No curse.
No stupid, meaningless curse that casters come up with to label onto a tournament.
But we'll see. Year 0 going to be map number 3. This could really be a bit of a momentum shift over here. If time is able to really dominate this game, then I do think it becomes a lot harder for MaSa, who's already not feeling super confident, to try and bring back 2 different games. But hey, if you take one more game off of time, then all you have to do is figure out within one of the next 2 games, you kind of mind game your opponent, take one cheeky win. That's all you need.
I like how you ended up going there because I was totally going to make fun of you. If you get one more game, all you need is one more game.
You just need to double your efforts, Omicron.
But you went a little bit more intellectual path there. Okay.
All right, well, we're going to be starting up here in the top right-hand corner of the map, top of the red Chinese player. He goes by the name of Time.
And his opponent in the top left of year 0, it is the blue Terran MaSa.
$99,501 earned. Not bad. MaSa's been around for a very long time in this scene.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you split it up over 6 years.
Yeah. I'm sure 60,000 of it are from the weekly ES Champ tournaments from 2012. So for those who don't know, MaSa, a very long time ago, because he's been playing since whatever, 2011, 2012 in the Toronto scene, he used to dominate the Toronto scene, and every single time he'd go to a different event, he'd get knocked out incredibly fast. But no one could touch him in the Toronto scene. It wasn't until around 2016 he started really coming up. He made a semifinals run versus Firecake, and I think a lot of the pressure he feels is that he feels like he's always trying to live up to that kind of expectation that was built up around him in 2016 that he just never really fulfilled on.
Yeah. I don't mean this is a bad thing, but he almost is like that guy that's really good at Super Smash Bros. in his state maybe, but then goes to the regionals or
it's absolutely
the country
true.
And he doesn't quite go up to it. But you can see that he could, right?
Yeah.
Where some other people might you just be like,
I
yeah,
think
you're capped.
He was a player that I think he choked a lot in a lot of those other big events.
Right.
Yeah.
You talk about this all the time. After Austin, I think specifically, that's the one where he got that top finish.
That was great.
He had a high expectation of himself, and then it was a very kind of steep dive downward after that. So he was back to being a little more, a little less harsh on himself.
Yeah, if I ever finish editing that documentary I'm working on, I'll release the 3-hour interview I did with MaSa on this topic.
Oh.
But okay, guys, let's take a look. We do see faster command center here for MaSa. Time also getting up his own command center, although he's already shown he likes to get those up a little bit faster.
I guess it is. It's like it's like a tiny.
I mean, for MaSa, right, it's a lot faster.
Oh yeah, for
right?
sure.
Yeah,
He's been going for full 1-1-1s.
Yeah.
And I'm glad he stops. I did like the idea, as you were saying, like he's thinking about an entire best of. So he thought, if I fake him out with the Banshee in the first game and then actually do the, that. Okay, I get you. Didn't really work out. So go back to something else. There are so many builds, so many openers, so many styles in TvT. And while, some are better than others, I do think that if MaSa, had more of a handle on it, more confidence in this matchup, it would be something nice, that he would actually find comfortable, because he does have so many builds in every other matchup that he can do at, any moment's notice. But something about TvT, despite its plentiful openers and it does sometimes boil back down to, okay, double Raven probably is the safest. Can't do very much about this.
Well, Zombie Grab, that's because you're thinking inside the box. And as MaSa says, I don't really feel like there's a meta in TvT. So if I agree with you, that is what I think most people consider the meta. And I think that's maybe why we get to see MaSa doing these things that are like less conventional. But then sometimes he's going to get punished for doing the stuff that's like less conventional, because it's less conventional for a reason. Yeah,
exactly. It's possible to do it and get the guy who expects the same over and over again to be thrown off, but eventually he's gonna catch on and be like, no, like I got this. And that doesn't quite explain last game. It might explain the overall series, where Time is once again going into what is, I don't think you can really argue this, the safest thing to do. One Rax expand, maybe Thatcher expand would be safer. Not on this map. This map's kind of sucky for 2-Rax Reaper. And then a double Raven. So super duper. And MaSa is now taking advantage of that standard opener in the opposite way. Not trying to be aggressive, not trying to do some harassment that Time wouldn't expect, but to actually be greedy.
Yeah.
And that Time would not punish him for it, as Time has not been the one to push out at that typical Raven timing yet.
Maybe putting a little bit of fear into him. Time did get up the first Raven. He has a second Raven on the way, though, and that is potentially going to set him up to go for one of those push-outs. We'll see if he adds on a third CC, if he is going to catch on to MaSa's shenanigans, because the Reaper got cleaned up. It tried to go up the little hop-up cliff on MaSa's side, but MaSa actually had a supply depot there, so it blocked the Reaper, and the Cyclone was able to pick it off. And Time went for a scan the last game, right, to see what MaSa was up to?
He did, but he missed everything.
Yeah, he missed everything, but... And there's the scan again. Yeah. Is that going to be enough of a reveal to see, I guess, like the lack of additional things?
Well, he saw the second fact. No. Whoa.
Oh my god.
Wow.
It's like that scaffolding is just part of the map.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing to see.
That's very important, because I was already wondering if he could even click on it. Like, I was such a just barely scan, but he didn't see it at all. So, going to be very surprised by the mech presence. He's also already going to be surprised by how fast the third CC is down and running, because that's kind of the first thing you want to stop, or at least slow down, is the mech player's third CC. To get there when there's already 2 tanks and 2 missile turrets covering it, you're going to be disappointed.
And you can see, once again, MaSa doing a nice job trying to deny some of the scouting information, but this Hellion from Time makes its way past that Marine. Tank is not there in time, and it looks like the third CC has been revealed.
Now, the nice thing about this is that Time has been doing the bread and butter, not just double Raven opener, but also into the third CC, not like 2 extra barracks first or something like that. So it is kind of the situation where Time should push, and he is, but he doesn't have a ton of bite to it. There's definitely a chance for MaSa to play this perfectly, which it's not perfect so far, and hold on here, but it's going to be really difficult.
Okay, well, Cyclones are, at least one of them is going to end up falling over there in exchange for just 1 Hellion, and seeing the push coming across the map, that's going to give MaSa some time to try and situate his army, but trying to defend the natural and the third base does mean you kind of have to pick and choose where you want to set up, and wherever you set up, there's almost always going to be a vulnerable point.
Yeah, so he's setting up in the middle here where he expects the army to come in, and he's absolutely correct.
No, doesn't get the Raven, and now 2 Siege Tanks, almost 3 Siege Tanks get sniped off. Zombie Grove, I just don't think that MaSa has an army anymore.
His Raven was supposed to be there to help out and counteract the other person's Ravens, but I think also it started with those Cyclones going down. They were supposed to catch something more important or to simply not die. And everything just has really gone quite poorly for MaSa, who was on a razor-thin ability to defend all 3 bases in the first place.
And there's only 2 tanks out right now for MaSa. Now there's only 1 tank out for MaSa. He might be able to snipe off that Raven, but the Marines come forward. The SCVs direly trying to find a place to sit safely. The Viking count still actually looks like it's relatively even, but a slight little lead over here for Time, and MaSa just gonna tap out. GG. Time goes up in the series 2-1.
There's not a lot of production behind that push for Time. He was going for his own third CC, but with Ravens, it's so different when someone's Ravens are there and someone else's aren't. And MaSa, oh man, it could have been that perfect hold. Wow, you did everything correctly. Your Ravens were there, your Cyclones killed a Viking, and instead it started off with the Cyclones dying, and the Ravens just were...
The Siege tank siege up, but then they unsiege when they realize the Ravens aren't there, so he just loses 2 tanks.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
It was an execution thing, right?
It was swift. Time was totally in the right to go for that, and then it just worked out basically as well as it could.
Okay, well that does mean that the series is now going to be leading in favor of Time 2-1. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to a short break before we resume game number 4 and find out who's going to be moving on to face off versus the one and only Need in that semifinal. So we'll see you in just a little bit. You're watching WCS America's Playoffs. Back, ladies and gentlemen, to WCS Winters Americas. We're moving into game number 4 of our Terran versus Terran between Time and MaSa. My name is Fear Dragon. I'm still joined here by Zombie Grub. What did you do during the break, Zombie Grub?
I made you take your headset off.
That's true. That was very annoying.
What did you do?
I took my
your
headset off. Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, I speculated a little bit by going to the Team Liquid thread, the live report
okay.
thread, checking out Twitch chat, seeing what you guys were memeing about.
Did you?
Yeah.
That was quick.
Yeah.
That was right
Quite
here. I
fast.
didn't even notice.
I know. I'm fast.
All right. Okay. If that's what you want to be known for.
All right, well, game number 4 is loading on up into New Repugnancy, ladies and gentlemen. Currently, Time is leading up the series 2-1, which means he just needs one more game to move on to face off versus Neeb. MaSa can have a bit of a road to make the comeback, as he not only has to win 2 games, but it's 2 games versus a player that he already wasn't feeling confident against.
Yeah.
Seems like whenever it goes to the later stage of the game, is struggling.
Yeah, well, the first game was a big shock. Oh my gosh, maybe MaSa can do this, and then it does fall into what I kind of predicted, where one person seems to really have a handle on the matchup, and the other person's like, I need to do something tricky. And then what ends up happening is like some Swifts 3-0. Obviously the second game was a little more complicated than that, but it ended up being that decisive push.
Yeah.
And that third game was the most decisive push.
Yeah, that could not have gotten more one-sidedly.
Yeah, that's like so good about that opener. So as much as I like seeing Terrans that do something different, that do try to fit in the Banshees, or that 1-1-1 with a proxy starport, or mech. Time even tried throwing out mech. There's not much arguing that double Raven, Cyclone first 2, conservative play is not the best. I don't know.
I mean, you were talking about proxies and stuff. Proxy starport, I know, is one thing. Are there any other kind of things that you think MaSa could maybe throw out here just to really, I guess, sneak in a game victory?
On New Repugnancy, maybe he tries the Tyrax, since Time has done at least one. Did he do one Rex expand? I think that was on year 0, though, which is a very that would be so risky to do, but it might give him some confidence to control the game a little bit. But
what was also interesting is Time, he went for the 1 Rex expansion. He also didn't do like a depot block or anything for the Reaper could jump up to the main base. MaSa did. Time didn't.
Oh, in that very first?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And, the year 0 map. Yeah.
Oh, well, year 0 just has
yeah.
limited spots anyways. yeah. No, I kind of want to see MaSa just do the exact same thing that Time is doing, and I want him to try that mid game, but that's where he believes he's going to fall behind, so it's very hard to be a coach and tell him that. Like, do the thing that you think you're going to lose. Trust me. I'll see.
Okay, well, we're going to be starting down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map. Ladies and gentlemen, this man sitting up 2-1. He goes by the name of Time.
And on the top right, as the blue Terran, he is MaSa for OSC Esports Elite.
OSC Elite. Excuse you, not
there's
OSC.
No esports.
No, that's just the name of their tournaments. One of their many tournaments.
See? That's why I got the habit. So MaSa's going to try and momentarily give Time a heart attack. He has his barracks in the back.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's really going to do much with that, though. So Time's going to probably figure that out
Just
and then
watch.
go search the back. If he were to SCV
Time
scout.
is going to come in here with an SCV scout. MaSa's going to lift up the barracks and float it to the corner, zombie grub. And then he's going to think that the barracks is somewhere on the map.
Yeah. The thing is that when you go for double gas and like a factory expand, you don't actually have to SCV scout, like strictly speaking. You could definitely get away with not doing it, but...
I don't hate it versus MaSa specifically.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to Time probably being the more confident one the longer the game goes, so he's been playing very standard. Just his game number 2 into the mech was a little bit off kilter, but that's still opened up the same.
He doesn't see the barracks or the factory.
Uh-oh. Well, that is exactly what MaSa wanted. So Time, he already was going into that factory, right? So that doesn't change. But he might be just keeping guys on gas, for instance, trying to get to a starport, planning on counteracting the eventual Reapers, but
my God,
in this
look at
case,
this reaction.
pulling SCVs. And I'd say that's more SCVs than I even expected. Sometimes like 3, but this is 5 SCVs.
I think it's because there's such a wide open area on this map for the Reaper to hop up that he feels like it needs all of those to actually cover the area.
And then you don't go maybe for like a faster tech lab on that factory, and there's the starport, which again, he might not have been planning on doing.
I mean, let's put this in context. 5 SCVs being pulled off for that time when you're only on 20 workers. That is about 25% of your economy. That's a quarter of your economy is not mining.
Yeah, gotta give props to MaSa. I was one that, like, because it is the Reaper map, it's very good and has plenty of hop-up spots. Even if they expect it, you might still to do something. Time expected it, and scouted what he thought was a confirmation. It wasn't. It all worked out so well. MaSa takes that little bit of an edge to start things off. He does still get to that faster Raven again this time, so back to like the Gamer 1 build.
Yep, gets that up. The starport now finished up here for Time, and he is going to finally add on those tech labs now, so he can get up his own Ravens, as he has been doing so much this series. But both these players getting up their command centers, and we'll see what MaSa's going to be able to do with that. I mean, honestly, it looks like a pretty substantial supply lead for this early on in the game.
Yeah. Well, that is. Yeah.
I guess one of it's a Widow Mine. It's hard to be aggressive with or anything. So.
Yeah, that's for sure. So, since not much is going to happen in the very early game, I do wonder if MaSa is going to try and once again catch Time defending a position that he would usually have to, and then actually go like the other way, because that's what happened on Kairos, was it?
Yeah.
So there's the spot on the main that you could siege up, you know, against Time. And there's also the natural that you can actually siege up too, which is the lesser spot to siege up. But that's how MaSa managed to like dig himself into a position in that very first game and get a victory of battles that turned into a victory of the actual game. Maybe that's what he's planning again, because this is very similar to that opener. It's not the exact same. I wasn't paying like 100% attention, but the Widow Mine, the tank, the Raven first.
Banshee also coming on out there for MaSa. So one Raven, one Banshee, no cloak or anything coming out for the Banshee either.
Yeah. So
you're definitely right. Looks similar. I'm
thinking about it, like, because Time does show in almost every game except the last one, where he literally scouted a greedy third that he doesn't really care about pushing that much, and it's about MaSa doing the push more than Time. So if he can once again find Time defending a position he's not actually going to, then maybe he can get that early victory. So it's in a little while.
Yeah. So, I mean, when exactly would that push come out? Because right now, MaSa, he's sending out a couple of his Hellions, his Reapers. He's moving around the map with his Marines and stuff. But the Banshee only just recently popped and is actually sitting back in the corner of his main base right now.
So usually I would say like two Ravens with Vikings on the way, but in this case it's one Raven, one Banshee with Vikings on the way. So like soonish, maybe after he sees what exactly Time has set up here with this little bit of harassment.
Yeah, kills off 2 workers and backs out of there with the safety of his Hellions. And oh my god, the scan again!
Yeah, I keep on like forgetting that the positioning of MaSa's buildings affects that mid-game scan.
Yeah. And
I'm always like, that was perfect. Wow.
Every time, actually, he's been able to dodge out of actually having his build scouted for the most part. That's a real feels bad man scan right there. He basically got a depot.
But it's like you can kind of.
Oh, Widow Mine! Ooh, softens up some of the Hellions. Can he finish the job? He kills off one more with their Hellion. But the Reapers and the Cyclones are going to be able to push that back.
But this is already a difference of that first game, where Time maybe can now track the army and where exactly it's going to, and have that position not just ready to defend, but also maybe a little bit farther forward to like really nip it in the bud.
Okay, so MaSa does a scan forward, so he sees the positioning of his opponent's army. He's actually going to try and spread out his tanks a little bit. Viking taking a bit of damage, and remember that air superiority was a big deal for MaSa in one of the previous situations. The Banshee is also sitting here with the main army as well. Yeah,
so MaSa, it's what I kind of expected him to do. The less common spot to siege up on, and that is to the north. MaSa, it's going there. Getting to that third would have been a little too much to ask for.
Time sees it with a Marine, but these siege tanks are not going to really be covering the natural directly. He's going to try and dump in over here. We end up seeing the auditors coming down for Time in massive numbers, and it seems like they're starting to clean up a lot of MaSa's army. The air superiority also going to Time in this situation, but the tanks, as long as they have... Oh no, the Viking doesn't land in time. Ugh.
It wouldn't have lasted very long anyways. Yeah. That was...
Oh, okay, well, Time just gave him almost all of his Vikings there.
Well, he almost gave the tank. MaSa's tanks weren't all together, I suppose. That still was Time's victory. He saved his tanks, he saved his Ravens.
He's still here.
And even if MaSa does find another siege up point, he's dangerously close to being broken. This isn't as drastic as a position, but he is going to continue pressing it. He has reinforcements going across the map while he takes his own third.
Okay, he's also going to try and trade out versus this Viking. He does get the final kill on one of those Vikings of Time, but Time has 2 of his own. Is now moving forward with the Ravens. Once again, auto turrets being thrown down and snipes off another tank. MaSa is gotta be really careful here. He's bleeding off a lot of units, but he is still up in supply, but most of it's in workers.
Right, but it's not that drastic of an army difference like game number 2.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
he probably will be able to hold even if time were to go across the map. He has much faster stim, and their third CCs are around the same time with orbitals around the same time. Oh no, stim's already done for time. I was going to say, that's really odd that he has so many advantages. Okay, that makes more sense then. So that's what he's behind on, right? So there was still sacrifice to do that, and time not only has stim in this game, but is also going to be playing around with combat shields much faster, medevacs to move around eventually, and he should be controlling that mid-game, but we're finally going to get that typical mid-game, where they're actually pretty close to each other, and we'll see how MaSa's able to combat that.
MaSa's going sniping around for Ravens or Vikings that he can find with his own Vikings. Feeling confident about his count and the air superiority that he has. But he's also moving out once again. Maybe just wants to make sure he has a bit of room in case there is a move out there from time. He can defend his third base without being immediately sieged up. But, man, MaSa's so aggressive with his Vikings.
Yeah, he really wants to pick off the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
Ravens get more difficult to use as the game goes on, but they're basically never useless.
Yeah.
You never just give them away like maybe a Banshee at minute 8. Now you save a Raven. Especially because eventually if they stack up energy, they can get like literally 7 like interference matrix or whatever. So like it can be an insane difference, and MaSa wants to be able to take that away from his opponent.
MaSa's getting in position again, the same position as before. He goes for another scan. He actually throws down the interference matrix with his own Raven that he has now. Gets the 3 tanks, sieged up inside that natural expansion mineral line. Remember, this is also going to be in range of the gas guys, so not only denying mining here, but if this is left unchecked, he's going to be able to snipe off the gas guys here, take a bit of a lead there.
Really nice stuff to find in position now with a good army again, too.
Ooh, and he has, I think, still the Viking count lead. Doesn't have the Raven count lead, but he snipes off one of his opponent's Ravens.
Yeah, this is... it's denying so much mining, though, that even as it's once again a situation where time can break it, it probably is going to be worth it, especially if MaSa focus fires down the tanks and not like some, 1 or 2 Marines. MaSa is finding the advantages, but Time's also trying to keep his head level here. He's going for his 4 CCs, keeping up his upgrades, and he will be able to take this down. Actually, not going for the concave, but actually trying to siege up on this. He loses a ton of his Marines. And
yeah, and there's still 2 tanks alive over here for MaSa, so these 2 tanks for MaSa are going to survive. He lands his Vikings to try and absorb some of the shots, and the siege tank splash damage isn't going to be enough. Time actually splits off the weakened siege tank there, keeps some of the units alive, but MaSa comes in with reinforcements, but MaSa doesn't have the upgrades that Time has. He still manages to win out the end.
Wow, Time does not. That was not the break I expected. And I would say he could have done that swifter and with some more tanks alive. But MaSa now rallying forward, continuing with the momentum. He don't have combat shields, might not have 1-1, but he's got the army.
SCV's being pulled off the line. They're going to be going into the tank fire over here. The tank's actually starting to friendly fire. Medevac goes down thanks to the Vikings, and the Marines going to be able to deal with these SCVs. Even though it looks like they nearly get a tank, MaSa saves it and pushes this army back.
Looks like we're actually going to be going in an ace match then. It seems like whenever MaSa is able to get his tanks in a position, he manages to throw Time off enough. Like that. It started off pretty okay, but that second break from Time was just not what he was looking for.
I mean, I guess that's one of the really, really scary things about TvT is that positioning is so important in this matchup. You can be behind in supply, army supply, or whatever, and you can make magic happen with it.
It's just so weird, though. Like, we might be seeing the end of the game, which is why I'm hesitant to really, be like, this is what went wrong in that match or game or battle a minute ago, but maybe some lull in the action? No, he's just redirecting to the third base. I mean, Time's down 50 supply here, 30 of it in army. The only thing he has going for him is upgrades, but that only makes a difference so much. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what Time's going to be able to do. He did manage to finish up his 4th command center, so I think he pulled it back into a safe spot. The siege tanks are going to just get dropped on top of by these Marines here for MaSa. So he's killing off 8 more SCVs, even more. 10 workers go down. MaSa's now sitting up 30 workers. MaSa is bleeding off a lot of units. He has to be careful because he's got a good worker count. He can replenish the supply, but here we go. This is a good trade for him.
Yeah, that was barely in time, though. Those tanks weren't siege, and that's a different
Even barely
outcome.
in MaSa's.
Right. So, Time still struggling to get above 100 supply. Almost caught MaSa being a little over-aggressive, but now MaSa is going on to a 5th base, and will be evening up the upgrades I expect, because Time can't really afford 3-3. And it's just I don't want to say it. I'm not going to say it. It's not a matter of, but it's close to being done here. MaSa just needs to actually get that killing blow, which Time is refusing to give to him.
Yeah. It is a matter of time until he's able to mass A move his units across the map. But no, it is becoming more and more problematic. We have a fifth base on the way there for MaSa as well, whereas Time is still struggling to try and find an opportunity to sort out a fourth base.
A little bit of a weird scan, confirming that there is a third CC saturated.
Yeah.
So he does start +3 attack. I guess he's realizing that at least is the one advantage he really truly has.
Ooh, target firing down the engineering base. SCV is going to try and defend him, and with some Marines coming in, it looks like MaSa is busy at the front lines, trying to break through. Does he have enough Marines? Well, he definitely has the tank count to handle this.
Yeah. Well, if he doesn't have enough Marines to hold off against the drop, then he still could be broken.
Wow, surprisingly good, but he pulled off 15 workers there. That one Marine! No, not gonna be enough.
Nah, not quite. MaSa does dip down in supply a little bit. I guess is the closest it's been for, the last couple minutes. No, actually, it's still 50.
But he's still doubling the worker count, and also soon going to be, he's one base away from doubling the base count of Time.
Yeah, here's the thing, though, right? Like, Time is kind of in the right. Of course, he's in the right, but he has probably brought back TvTs from such positions. I would give him that credit on, ladder, definitely, maybe in some really close professional games. So it makes sense that he hasn't tapped out as long as he has 4 CCs, as long as he has 3 CCs, actually. But MaSa is not actually throwing the game away. Got a little bit close, maybe, for a second there, but he's not. He's even going on to the way that Terrans break with their Terrans, when they're like, please get out of this game. Go to Liberators. You're going to Vikings again. You're going to Liberators. They can't just continue holding on with their tanks.
Ooh, MaSa's also poking in at the third base at the same time. He's forced a massive siege up over here, and guess what? There's only one tank on this angle, so he's going to be able to snipe off a fresh mule, snipe off a couple more workers, saying, all right, well, I know that I've hurt your economy, so let's just continue hurting it, continue hammering away at it, and we'll out macro. Soon, MaSa is going to be not only in the Liberators, but a maxed out army supply.
Yeah, he could just split his army in half and find some opening, but if that doesn't work, then Liberators probably will.
Sims forward, sees that there's no tanks over here. The Marines coming up the ramp here for Time, but they don't have any siege tank support, whereas MaSa does. And MaSa is finally tied up the series 2-2.
GG. And now I can finally really harp on Time about that break, all right? I was holding back. No, but it was so awkward. Like, I feel like it's really difficult to explain unless I have like a perfect, similar game to show you guys, but he sieged his tanks when I think he could have concaved with them, and he also stopped his Marines in a ball instead of letting them concave on top of the tanks too. So they took, I think it was 2 shots.
You're talking about the first
Marines.
Defense at his natural when MaSa was at the north of it?
The second defense was
the second
natural,
defense,
where he lost all the tanks as well to the
right,
reinforcing units. Yeah. The difference is that his Marines count probably still die, but at least they take the shots and the tanks don't. And then the tanks are surprised by that back attack, but there's still like 6 of them, so maybe some of them siege up. And I feel like the snowball is not as drastic. Was it still a good position for MaSa? Yeah, but it really was more of a snowball than I think it should have been. Because TvT is all about those comebacks, and the difference of like being down 50 supply as opposed to being down 30 is the difference of Time being able to come back in the stage of TvT where he does feel confident.
Yeah, absolutely. And we end up seeing a situation now where Time has been, I guess, brought to the ace match over here versus MaSa. A scary player to be brought to an ace match against, just because you still don't know what he's going to be able to do. Yeah. Time has already kind of drawn the short straw when it comes to getting scouting information and scans.
Yeah,
and he's been, I guess, 1 for 2 in being in the correct position for MaSa's big attack. Of course, he did win with one of his own big attacks, but it was really only like that one map that he was really, really prepared for MaSa's like big 2-base push. The other games, he was out of position. You were talking about how that is what MaSa's been able to really capitalize on, is outmaneuvering Time a bit. So where do things go here? We're going to find out what the map is in just a split second.
Right. Port Alexander. So this one does not have those 2 angles of attack, I would say. Whereas specifically Kairos and New Repugnancy has those 2 still deadly angles. This one I think only has 1, either the direct one to the face or, the maybe... Actually, you can't even siege up the mineral line from the third.
You can't siege up the mineral line. You can siege up some of the production, especially since Time has always been putting, I think, all of his production right by the ramp, right? And that's, I think, one of the places you can siege up here.
But that's the obvious angle. Is what I'm. We'll go more into it when we're in the game, I guess, not just talk hypothetically and confuse you all. But just to also emphasize, because it's so cool, and it also probably is affecting Time's mental game. The fact that MaSa is getting these like worthless scans from the guy and just barely tricking him.
Yeah.
You know, do 5 SCVs pulled in the early game affect a 9-minute game that much? Yeah, usually by then something else has happened and like you're kind of like over it. But if the guy's like, oh, okay, well, good one, MaSa, like, okay, cool, super cool, and he's thinking about that the entire time, like, I think while Time should have felt confident going into this best of 5, I think MaSa's been done an excellent job getting into his head, making him a little scared.
And that's what he does. That is how MaSa oftentimes wins series. But game number 5, we've seen MaSa go for the kind of the 1 Raven, 1 Banshee, no cloak opening, put the pressure on, take a third base behind it. He's done that now twice, but we're going to find out what is he going to do, because he hasn't been able to win any games, I think, on any other builds. Like trying to go for the fast third CC didn't really pan out. Trying to, I guess, go for some of the other stuff like...
Well, actual cloak banshees.
Yeah. Actual cloak banshee did not end up working out. So MaSa's still only gotten victories off of that one kind of attack, and it's also dependent on him getting good positioning. So there's a bit of a mix there on whether or not MaSa's still going to be able to close the series out.
Oh, it's happening, it's happening, it's happening. Do the intros, do the intros.
All right, starting out down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, a Chinese player in red. He is Time.
I love Terrans. We're in the ace match. He'll never expect me to 2-rax, and they both do it. On the top left.
You just barely dodged out of the vision of that SCV.
As the blue Terran, it is MaSa.
Oh my god.
Oh wait, they're
their SCVs are about to see each other in the middle. Is that okay? Is that that's definitely a weird timing, right? And Time is actually pulling back his SCV.
Yes. Yeah, that's
Is he gonna commit less to this?
That is the question. So MaSa goes for the scout, and then Time also just like, well, he could have gone for the scout with that SCV, he just decides to bring it home. I think they both know what happened. They both are like, we were gonna 2-rax each other, and while in some cases one person just decided to go for like maybe Marines faster or try and get a high ground faster with Reapers and actually play 2-rax or 2-rax, they're instead both gonna try and macro out of this.
Okay. Second barracks comes back down at home for MaSa, and Time still not showing signs of that. He's throwing down his second refinery, so he's going to get up the extra gas income over here. But it seems like he is thinking more along the lines of getting up another fast factory after this, whereas MaSa is thinking, let's double boost out those Reapers and put some pressure on.
Well, not only is he no longer proxying both barracks, but this barracks is later than it should be for double barracks.
Does Time pull back his Reapers then? Because he has to have something back at home to defend, right? But MaSa's going to have a Reapers back at home to defend and also to be aggressive with.
Yeah, that must... Oh, man, I don't even know how you read the situation, honestly. Because even though you're both not
MaSa finds it.
Even though you're both not committing, you both know that either one of you could send the Reaper aggressively and not defensively.
I think MaSa having this SCV here is pretty big, though, because he's going to see where the Reaper goes.
So the point is he will have production to save his base, whereas Time does not have that option quite yet.
Ooh, delays the factory. This is going to make it harder to deal with this Reaper harassment as well. Or snapping off one worker, forcing some SCVs off the line at the same time. It looks like Time is pulling back his Reaper to this side of the map, and MaSa is going to have the opportunity to rally his Reapers across the map and continue this aggression.
You know, this goes down a lot to Time not scouting with his own SCV and MaSa scouting. Like that, I think the better move, as we see here, was to go for the second barracks, even if it was a little off time. Darn it. But this has worked out. 4 SCVs are killed. Ooh. Now it still puts Time a little ahead.
Oh, Time's pulling back in with another one of these Reapers, so you might be able to cut this off. No, MaSa darts around a different angle. Now MaSa's got 3 Reapers to just 2.
Yeah, and if he wins against these 2 Reapers, a Hellion won't help. Actually, it's not a Hellion, it's a Cyclone, so it's going to take a little longer to get out. This could be an opportunity for MaSa to get a lot of SCV kills. How's it going to go? Good grenades. He's going to take out 1 Reaper. Now the second one should go down. That's it.
That's it. MaSa is going to be moving on to face off versus Neeb in the next round. 3-2.
Oh, gosh. I am so excited we get to interview this guy because there's a lot of things to pick his brain about. That was a dramatic series. That didn't play out like I expected. For a little while, it looked like it would. Time was bringing it back. And then MaSa's like, no, I got this.
I mean, MaSa clearly wasn't feeling very confident about this particular match. He was saying that in his winner's interview after his last match. He clearly didn't do super well versus Time in the round robin, but he was able to change things around to really get in Time's head in this particular series. And now with a 3-2 victory, he gets the honor of facing off versus Neeb, who I know he's gotten ahead of before.
Yeah.
We'll see if he's going to be able to do it again. I'm really looking forward to it. And we are going to be having him on for an interview in just a second. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you guys that you should be letting us know what you think of how all the matches and stuff are going. Who do you think is going to win at this point? Because we only have 3 players left. MaSa, Scarlet, and Neeb, which I think is actually so appropriate because we got a
It
Protoss,
is.
a Terran, and a Zerg. And I think the 3 who are considered the best of each of their races in the North American region, at least.
Yeah, and yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's paired up quite nicely. I feel like while time is no stranger to T-Raxes, I
Mhm.
think any professional Terran isn't a stranger to them.
Yeah.
I really feel like MaSa got the benefit of
He
that
handled it
specific
so well.
that specific type of game.
Mhm.
And the decision to go for the scout, you rarely get that perfect opportunity. As I said, a lot of times it is just a really stupid T-Rax versus T-Rax. And you're just like, oh, but that actually was clever. I like it.
Definitely a big fan. And of course, again, guys, there's a lot of money on the line here. So every single one of these matches that a player is able to win is going to mean a lot. Remember that MaSa, now moving on from this match to the next match, is going to be facing off versus Neeb. And the winner of that is then going to have to face off versus Scarlet, who is sitting pretty on her throne in the grand finals right now, just chilling, relaxing. I don't even think she came into the studio as early as everyone else. Everyone else came in at 6 a.m. or something. Scarlet decides to sleep in. She gets relaxed. That's her reward for winning out on the round robin.
Yeah.
But there's that $12,000 on the line for first place. And of course, we are going to see that Wildtime did put up a damn good fight. He's going to be knocked out in 4th place, still walking away with $5,000. Still, I believe, just barely enough to clear, I think, the 100K mark that he was close to.
Well, that's right. Yeah. Keep bringing it up. So that's still something to
Yeah,
celebrate.
and I mean, the WCS points are also going to be nice.
Yes.
It helps him with seeding for things like Challenger.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
of course, the actual WCS events themselves.
just generally, the rich get richer, but in a good way.
All right, but you guys can see over here, Neeb versus MaSa, going to be that next match, and it's just 2 opponents left. So, ladies and gentlemen, we now have MaSa on the desk here for the interview. Maru, how you feeling after that last match?
Last match?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I think one thing that Zombie Grub and I agree with is that you definitely were doing a lot of small little things to get in Time's head there. I mean, I don't know if you noticed how unlucky Time was getting with his scans, where he just repeatedly was scanned, and every single time he would miss either all of your production or like the key thing that you were throwing up, like, I'm going for mech into going to the factories and stuff. What triggers you to go for like that kind of a building placement, or just all the weird things, the little mind tricks that you go for?
I mean, I honestly think Time is way better than me in TvT, so I get any benefit in the game.
Yeah.
Like
So-
any sort of benefit.
You considered strongly that mid-game scan would happen. It wasn't just a temporary fake out of the T-Rax.
Oh, I mean, that, yeah, of course.
It was
Like,
both.
everybody
It was
scans,
both.
yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was just so oddly perfect how it happened. Yet you could argue that the Terrans often still expect the pushes that you did, right? On Kairos, on New Repugnancy, map 1 and number 4. But what do you think actually made the difference of those working compared to like those other maps where you seem to struggle to do any sort of opener? Like, was it him being out of position? Do you have better tank focus fire? Like, what was it that made game number 1, game number 4, your macro games so darn good?
Definitely he was a little bit out of position. But the thing is, whenever I tried those pushes,
Mhm.
I never cared about Ravens, like enemy
Mm.
Ravens.
Okay.
Then it always got demolished. This time around, I try to focus a lot on his Raven to make him like use energy on the auto turret, and I just move back so he doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
And especially on New Repugnancy, he had like full energy Raven,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and my Viking kept it out of the battle. That's
Yeah.
how I won.
At bay. But it kind of turns around sometimes, right? Like on year 0, all of his auto turrets hit you. So that was
Yeah.
just your Vikings being out of position then?
Yeah, that was me being out of position.
All right. So I know, MaSa, I know last time I checked in with you and stuff around the round robin time, you were finishing up your midterms and stuff. How much time do you have still left in school and everything? Because I know a lot of people there's a lot of people out there who are like, yeah, MaSa's the best Terran in North America and everything. But people are always wondering, is he going to commit a little bit more to StarCraft? Is he going to keep going a little bit harder on StarCraft?
It's almost exactly a year left,
Mhm.
so I have to see how it goes.
Yeah, just going to keep winning.
Yeah, I mean, I had no expectation of winning in this tournament.
I love it.
Yeah.
One other thing, though, is that your next opponent, Neeb, is a guy that you faced off against so many times. I mean, probably one of my favorite moments in my entire existence in StarCraft was watching you play a best of 7 against him in the Kings of the North show match. And you open up in the lobby chat saying, all right, Neeb, I'm going to proxy you every single game. And then you proxied him every single game and you won the show match. So, like, how are you feeling about this match versus Neeb? I know that a lot of things have changed over the past year or two.
Yeah, the thing is, Neeb got experience in Korea, where everybody proxied him, so he got really good at defending that. So that sucks, but my mid-late game against Protoss got a little bit better nowadays, so I can try to use that.
Yeah.
Or I can say this and still proxy him all game.
Yeah, I was gonna say we don't want you to reveal your secrets. He's like listening in, being like, okay,
Yeah.
copy. But just overall, like, what are your? You feel like you could defeat Neeb? Is it? You said time was actually the toughest opponent. So now is it a little bit easier actually?
I mean, when I was even preparing for this tournament, I only prepared for TvT in case I got time.
Okay.
So like right now, I don't really. I'm just gonna wing it against Neeb because losing to Neeb happens a lot of the times.
Yeah.
And against time, it was, how do you call it? I never really lost to him, right? Because
Yeah.
we never faced.
And I mean, if you manage to beat Neeb here, you get Scarlet, who you have a ridiculous win record against. So it's a good spot to be in. Well, do you have any kind of final shout-outs or anything?
Shout out to Future for telling me this beautiful TY build that I
Nice.
that I managed to beat time twice with.
Nice.
Love it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for MaSa versus Time. But we got some Terran versus Protoss coming on up as MaSa's going to face off versus Neeb. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the WCS Winter Americas Playoffs.
He has taken quite a while to get to the Marine count to bust this. He's even pulling the SCVs to bust this.
Oh my god, SCV's actually clumping up on that auto turret, taking some friendly or a big fire there. The Vikings end up landing, healing up the rest of those SCVs. MaSa takes the first game.
This is Time's game for sure.
Yeah, Hellbats might be cleaned up over here, but the Bioforce is trading out so poorly here for MaSa at this point that it doesn't matter. MaSa going to be halved in supply compared to Time and GG. But the Marines come forward, the SCVs direly trying to find a place to sit safely. The Viking count still actually looks like it's relatively even, but a slight little lead over here for Time, and MaSa just going to tap out. GG.
And he will be able to take this down. Actually, not going for the concave, but actually trying to siege up on this. He loses a ton of his Marines. And
Yeah, and there's still 2 tanks alive over here for MaSa, so these 2 tanks for MaSa are going to survive. He lands his Vikings to try and absorb some of the shots, and the siege tank splash damage isn't going to be enough. Time actually splits off the weakened siege tank there, keeps some of the units alive, but MaSa comes in with reinforcements, but MaSa doesn't have the upgrades that Time has. He still manages to win out the end. Here the Marines coming up the ramp here for Time, but they don't have any siege tank support, whereas MaSa does. And MaSa has finally tied up the series 2-2.
this could be an opportunity for MaSa to get a lot of SCV kills. How's it going to go? Good grenades. He's going to take out one Reaper. Now the second one should go down. That's it.
MaSa is going to be moving on